seemingly innocent call the officer responded to here. Walmart employees, in fact, called for help around 2:20 this morning to report a drunk person walking around the store. The drunk man started a fight. Within seconds, he pulled out a gun.
With a heavy heart, I have to report that we've lost a police officer this morning. The suspect produced a semi-automatic pistol, shot the officer at point blank. The officer leaves behind his parents, two young daughters, ages 10 and 6. As can be expected, they are extremely distraught. They are not alone. The Austin Police Department, our first response community, and most importantly, our city and our community will stand with this family, and we'll make sure that those two little girls that just lost their father tonight, through no fault of his own, that they are raised the way they need to be raised, and their needs are met.
Tonight we remember an American hero, Officer Jaime Padron. He leaves behind two little girls, just 10 and 6 years old. Think about that, folks. 10 and 6 years old. Their dad will never see them grow up. He'll never see them graduate. He'll never see them walk down the aisle. Hopes, memories, dreams, all snuffed out in a second. In what could be, or should have been, a routine call. But there's no such thing as a routine call at all. And people criticize police all the time. But you know what? Walk a mile in a cop's shoes. Go take a ride along sometime. See exactly what it's like to be a cop. Even ride along with a cop, you're not going to know what it's like to be one until you're confronted with a life and death situation. And in this particular case, he thought he was going to the Walmart to deal with an intoxicated person at 2:30 in the morning. In Austin, Texas, at a Walmart, on the frontage road, right off of I-35. A routine call. I've got many friends on the wall, the Police Memorial Wall, Washington, D.C. Shouldn't be there. Joining me, former police detective Steve Kardian. You know, Steve, you hear stories about this, and it just, having been there, you and me both, it's just not right. Not right at all, Steve.
No, it's not at all, Mike. It's a very, very sad thing. And I was just thinking, between you and I, we've got more than 60 years in law enforcement. To this day, I still teach police officers in the police academy. And when I teach the recruits, I tell them, someday, I don't care if you're with a one-man police department or a 30,000-man police department, someday you're going to meet someone who wants to cause you serious physical injury and likely want to kill you. And what part of an orientation in any other job do you hear those words? I mean, we're exposed to domestic violence, to pursuits, to stress, bar fights, aggressive people. So it's a very dangerous job, Mike. We know that.
And, you know, just the other day in New York City, a guy who works at a hospital, but in his off-duty time, when he's not working in a hospital, he's an NYPD auxiliary cop, a volunteer police officer. He puts his life on the line because he wants to be involved in his community there in New York City. Shot and killed in the back for no apparent reason. You know, Steve, so far this year, there have been 26 line-of-duty deaths, law enforcement line-of-duty deaths, for all different reasons. But I'm glad to say, Steve, there have only been 11, you know, only 11 so far this year by gunfire. And compared to last year, Steve, that's down by 56%. You know, we hear, you know, it's always, we hear sometimes Jane Velez Mitchell on her show call it a war on women when there's violence against women, domestic violence, which should not happen. But sometimes I think there's a war on cops, which also should not happen.
Yeah, Mike, we put on a uniform, we put on a badge, we have good training, we have a gun, we have pepper spray, we have a baton, we have a radio, but yet we're still faced with such dangers that with all these tools, with backup sometimes only minutes away, our lives are constantly being placed in danger. So therefore, we go knowing that we take this job under those conditions. And it's a brave bunch of men and women that are out there serving. Whether they wear the blue uniform, the gray uniform, or the green uniform, it doesn't matter. We're all out there doing the same thing. You're right. You know, yesterday at the end of the show, I had some buddies of mine who put their life on the line every single day as firefighters here in Atlanta with Squad 4. And it's the same thing, you know, me having been a volunteer fire chief and also being a cop. I tell you, it goes hand in hand. But every single day, I just listen to the chief, and I hate seeing that black mourning band around a badge, Steve, but it happens all too often. Yeah, Mike, how many funerals have we been to? Whether it's a police officer in your department or a police officer across the country, when a brother or sister in blue get killed in the line of duty, it's the ultimate sacrifice. Watching that bit in the beginning, honest to God, it swelled up my eyes, as it always does when I read about or hear about a police officer being killed in the line of duty. Right, I had to look over at the computer because I've been to too many. And, you know, it's one of these things people, you know, I had one time Major General Mike Healy, first commander of the 5th Special Forces in Vietnam. He told me, you know, it takes a real man to cry. And because of our life experiences, sometimes our bladder's a little bit close to our eyes, and it's tough to do. But, Steve, you just had in your own family a close call, did you not? Yes, my nephew, Gregory Mulligan, Albany Police Department, stopped a convicted felon who was a parole violator. He gets out of the car, had a gun. My nephew and his partner, they tackled him, and he was able to get away from them. The gun was already pulled out, and my nephew was forced to shoot him. Through this heroic act, he saved not only his life, but the life of his partner. That's golden. It is, Steve, and having been involved in shootings like that myself and the use of deadly force, and having been cut myself and stabbed myself and shot at myself a number of times, it's one of those things you hope you never have to encounter. But all too often, Steve, I know you in New Jersey, New York, and me in Washington, D.C., it happens all the time. But I want our viewers, when May 15th rolls around, folks, remember the police officers. That's National Police Memorial Day. I spoke to an academy class here in Atlanta with the Atlanta Police Department not that long ago, and I tell every one of them, sometime in your police career, and Steve, you'll agree with me on this, sometime in your police career, I don't care if you are a small department or a large department, make sure you get to Washington, D.C., visit that memorial, and take a look at those that paid the ultimate sacrifice. Steve Kardian, thank you, brother, for joining me. And always a pleasure, brother. And I hope we don't have to be talking about this anytime soon. Thank you. Up next.